Know this, do not give up on your legal status. Many people fail to respond to RFE or file an application before the deadline. This is why we offer a strategy session for 15 minutes at no cost to you. Not everyone qualifies. First, you need to speak with our CARES team. We receive many requests, so we recommend you answer a few questions on our website, greencardguys.com. Our mission is to help people live and work in America legally. Go ahead and subscribe below and follow and share. Talk to you soon. What's happening? Today is Monday, March 25th, 2024. My name is John Ting. I practice immigration law in the United States with a physical office in Houston, Texas. You can find us. You can Google search us, Ting Law Group. We're here to help you solve your immigration problem or maybe even prevent that problem from happening in the first place. Welcome, welcome. So today's topic are what are the top three, well, I won't say top, but most important questions for a marriage-based green card. Of course, there's a lot of every question that an officer would ask you is important for sure. But if anything, maybe this title should have been phrased critical. Okay. So happy to answer your questions, of course, after I go through the topic of the day. So please bear with me. And Kimmy, I see you wrote in, you have a question. Y'all can just write your question. You don't have to tell me you have one. And please don't copy and paste your questions because on TikTok it can throw it off and it like jumps the feed. So that means that now I have to like scroll up and down a lot more. Alrighty. So today's topic, one of the most important or critical question, again, the first one out of three, I wouldn't say like it's in a particular order, is how did you meet? I know it sounds like a wild question, right? That I even have to mention this. But some people, believe it or not, trip that up. Like you get fumbled through it. Y'all didn't practice. And I can understand maybe why you didn't practice because, like, yeah, I know how we met. But some people get confused in the heat of it on real time. Here's the thing, because some people say, oh, like you might think, well, how can some people mess up that kind of question? Well, some people accidentally like misinterpret that question. They might think, oh, well, do you mean when we started dating? No, it literally means like, how did you meet? Right? That's different than exactly what I just asked you. The second question, when did you start dating? Right? So think about it. These interviews are not usually long. I mean, fortunately, knock on wood, when I'm there or any of our attorneys, it's average, I would say 10 to 15 minutes. Not as long as you might think. Now, of course, you might think, oh, it's like 30 minutes. Sometimes that happens, even with attorney. Sometimes a lot of things got to review in the file, or maybe you don't have to review anything in the file. But when you mess up this kind of question or get thrown off, eventually that's going to quickly throw off the interview a bit. Okay. The officer is going to get a little confused because what happens right after you answer that type of question, they're calculating in their head, essentially, how long have you known each other? Right. So they're thinking, oh, 3 months? You've only known each other for 3 months? So, in fact, if they ask you how did you meet? And they might follow up with that, like, oh, when was that? Right? So you got to think about the full picture in that sense in terms of the dates, because that's exactly what the officer is trying to do in their head, calculating, right? And they interestingly, they don't actually usually ask like, how long have you known each other? All right, so they're trying to backtrack for themselves internally in their own head. All right, so the next question that I'll try to see if I can share on my screen, at least for YouTube and Facebook and Instagram purposes, is a specific about the 485 application. All right, there's a question towards the back of the application. I believe they call it background and security questions. Okay, part 8 on the 485 application. Or I guess part 7, including the criminal acts. All right, let me see if I can share my screen real quick. It's a trick question, okay, folks? Believe it or not, they do try to trick you from time to time. Go figure. Okay. So on YouTube and Facebook and maybe even Instagram, you should be able to see it right now. Okay, page number 10. I mean, there's a lot of questions here to be aware of course. Um, but one of them, number 25, okay, have you ever been arrested, cited, charged? I'm on the right side, okay? I know, sorry, folks on TikTok, you can't see it. Have you ever been arrested, cited, charged, or detained for any reason by any law enforcement official, which means cops, state trooper, um, or state trooper, highway patrol, sheriff, constable, any law enforcement official, including but not limited to any U.S. immigration official or any official of the U.S. Armed Forces or U.S. Coast Guard. Interesting. So, which I don't know why they would put Coast Guard. I guess maybe back in the day when they created this form, people were being picked up by Coast Guard. But I would think instead of armed forces, they would put custom border protection. But okay, anyway, back to explaining this. Um, so that's not the tricky question, actually, but people could get tripped up by this question anyway, because people might say, well, I got a traffic ticket. Should I mention it? Yes, because that's a traffic ticket, even though it's a speeding violation, typically, that's a citation. So that's what cited means, cited. All right. Now, the question that I meant to actually bring up is number 26. Okay. So if anything, number 25 was a bonus there to explain. But number 26, have you ever, and they actually put in bold a lot of these questions, well, pretty much all of them, and capitalized as if like no, not any other word is important. But have you ever, if I had to emphasize, committed a crime of any kind? Okay. Even if, and they put in parentheses, which is interesting, even if you were not arrested, not cited, so you didn't receive a citation, you were not charged with that crime or tried for that crime, meaning like in a criminal court. Um, so yeah, that's interesting. So you could, let's say, for example, you could have allegedly committed a crime, you were arrested, but maybe you weren't tried, like you didn't have a trial for that crime. So you need to still, um, which, if anything, you would think if you weren't even tried for the crime, maybe a plea bargain, then you would still, yeah, it's just tricky. So yeah, you just want to be. I mean, you want to, of course, tell the truth. All right, folks. But you might start thinking this out, and this really is, of course, specific to y'all because y'all meaning like if some of y'all want to file your own case, so a lot of these questions are going to trip you up. So, for example, if you stole a candy bar, but you gave it back, you could argue that or someone could argue that, well, technically you committed a crime, but you gave back the candy bar. So would you still mention this? Think about that for a second. I'm not going to tell you the answer. You might want to talk to a lawyer one on one about something like that. And maybe in your situation, it's not actually a candy bar, but I thought that would be a safe example. Okay. It could be a Twinkie. I don't know. Whatever your favorite source of candy or sugar, I mean. So those are important questions. Now, let's see. Of course, well, by the way, you're welcome to drop your question or share your experience in the comment section on your respective platform. I'll try to get to it as soon as I can. I'm wrapping up now on today's topic. Let's see here. Now, another quick note about not going through the entire 485 application, but really, I mean, everything, of course, is important here. But you really, for the purposes of an interview, which, by the way, if you get scheduled for an interview, don't be scared, okay? Don't be scared. At least when I'm there, one of our associates are there in person, everything is fine in that sense because you're prepared for sure. But, and we provide peace of mind in that sense. But you really, even when we do appear in face to face at the interview, we tell our clients, you need to review literally every single question, specifically starting on page 10 of this application, starting with question number 14. And I know this application is kind of weird. For every section or part, it restarts the numbering. But yeah, there's a lot of questions on this. Okay, here's another bonus one before I get to the third question, really. But it's about J visa. We've been receiving a lot of inquiries about the J1 visa. especially if you have a 2-year restriction on your passport. Um, you want to be so here on page number 10 of this form, question number 24A, and ask, have you ever been a J non-immigrant exchange visitor and who has been subject to a 2-year foreign residence requirement? And some of y'all might not know, checking your passport is the best way. And because I'm not actually sure right now if you check the cbp.gov website, if it mentions there, but definitely on the passport. Okay. And then if you did, then you have to select 24B or C. Okay. Or I mean, if you had the 2-year restriction, meaning 24B, have you complied with it? Or 24C, have you been, if not, have you ever been granted a waiver, or has Department of State issued a favorable waiver recommendation letter for you? Okay. So, which there's a lot of steps involved that you might not think about. That's critical for this step by step. Okay. So, even more reason, especially for J1, anyone that needs a J1 waiver, really encourage you speaking to an immigration attorney or law firm one-on-one. Alrighty. Now, oh boy. Now, especially all married people, you really need to know this. Okay. Um, another critical question you need to know for marriage-based residency or green card. Okay, let me scroll here where I can find it. So the I-130, the I-130A, and this 485 application, they all ask questions related to marriage. Let me bring it up on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram here. So I'm wrapping up now, and you can continue asking your questions on the chat below. All right, so I'm showing page number 8. All right, and it has this kind of question about dates, like date of marriage to prior spouse, where you got married, the date that the marriage ended. You might wonder, why do they ask these questions? Okay. They want to make sure that aside from the bona fide uh, marriage, meaning legit marriage, not fake, didn't enter it for the purpose of getting green card, which can be confusing for you. I'll try to explain that soon. But they want to make sure those dates, because let's say you got married twice and your second marriage started, the date of that marriage was technically before your marriage ended with the prior spouse. That's a problem. Okay. In Texas, that would be voided. Now, some of y'all might think, well, why the hell would that happen anyway? Like, of course, I wouldn't marry a second or subsequent spouse until I get divorced from someone else. Well, some of y'all don't pay attention, okay? So that's what we do. We pay attention for you, if anything. Now, at this point, like if someone were to hire us for this, we likely wouldn't find out, of course, until we review DACA, which is not necessarily on day one of a client that just hired us, right? It's after we collect the evidence, review it. So this has happened. I recall this has happened where I accepted a case pro bono for a U.S. military veteran, and he didn't know because he was on military duty. He just depended, so it's absolutely understandable because he wasn't even in the U.S., but he depended on his first spouse to complete the marriage and X state. So let's say he assumed, I mean, not turn a blind eye, maybe he did, but let's say he thought the marriage was the divorce hearing and all that was going to happen January 1st, 2024, but it didn't actually happen until maybe maybe there was a rescheduling by his first spouse and she didn't tell him, or vice versa, not trying to play gender roles. Then yeah, he depended on January 1st, 2024, and then he got married to the second spouse or subsequent spouse. So hopefully that gives you an idea that you really need to pay attention. You need to ask your ex-spouse, your former spouse, hey, whenever you get that done, can you email me a copy of that divorce order? And so you can see on the date there, the date is based on when the judge signed it. It's not the date necessarily that when your ex-spouse went to court, because sometimes maybe the ex-spouse's lawyer or if the ex-spouse filed it on their own, they didn't provide ABC document or information to the judge. So just keep that in mind. Whatever date they went to the hearing is not necessarily the date that's going to be signed on the divorce order or judgment. So you really need to pay attention to those dates because you might get gun ho and ready to I was about to say sign up. You would get ready to well, technically, but marry your subsequent spouse and then not pay attention to those dates. So, anyways, that wraps it up for today's topic. That is a bit nitty gritty. Um, and that's to phrase it in terms of question because based on the form I just shared with you on other platforms, you have to be ready for those dates to share to the USCIS officer. If you don't know those dates, that's problematic. I wouldn't say to the point that you'd be denied, but if there's a curveball, that's an American phrase I can say, like it kind of throws off the interview, the vibe of it, if you don't know those kind of dates. So please memorize them, okay? You're not going to have your form in front of you. It just wouldn't make sense to have the form in front of you. In fact, I don't think they allow it. That would be kind of strange. Okay. Alrighty. So let me answer some questions. I don't mean to skip around, but I see a comment by Zbelo. Increased fees means faster processing times. I wish that is not the case, but effective so far, it's supposed to increase April 1st, 2024. So very, very soon. Okay. What is that? April 1st is Monday. Okay. So very soon. Let me hop over to another platform here. John on YouTube, you and your wife were recently married. I think I recall that. She is a DACA recipient with unlawful entry. Is there any way to get a green card for her without leaving the country? Yeah, in general, I thought I responded to your other question related to it. Are you the person that had something about your grandparent in law? It sounds like you need to contact us directly. I think I think that'd be best. But yeah, it's possible. She has to qualify for exception or show that she actually traveled on approved advanced parole and came back in, which for DACA that I shared before, it's very, very specific reasoning. Okay. Alrighty. Okay, now over here. Congrats, Stephanie, that you're sending off your packet this week. Earlier is better. Earlier in the week is better, okay? Because for anyone that's filing the case soon this week, for your case to be accepted based on the current filing fees before April 1st, it needs to be delivered before April 1st, 2024. Because you might think in your head, well, I mailed it before April 1st, but if they don't actually receive it until after, then it's going to get rejected because you need to update the payment with the proper fees. Okay. Alrighty, let's see. Miss Lagos on TikTok, can you switch from B1 to B or B2 to F1 within the US? Yes, you can. Our office doesn't handle F1 necessarily or rarely any change of status, depending on situation. But we may have a free guide about it. And I believe you can file a change of status online. The thing here is for F1 status, you really have to talk to the university. You have to apply ASAP. And just timing wise, right now it's March 25th. I don't know if you're going to be able to, let's say sign up in time for like, even if it's Maymester. I mean, some community colleges have Maymester. I don't know if Yeah, I think, regular colleges and like 4-year colleges, universities have Maymester. I've done it before. How could I forget? Maybe it's been that long ago. Um, but yeah, timing wise, because you need to check your authorized date that you're allowed to be here. Okay. With your visitor visa status. All right. Let's see. Thanks for the follow, folks. If I don't answer your question, I apologize in advance because y'all have a ton of questions. Thank you so much for your trust. We're trying to scroll down here. Don't try not to skip anyone. Okay, here we go. See, it moved it all the way down. Okay, on TikTok here, Cafu, how long to take 290B? Unfortunately, there's no specific timing. USCIS processing time schedule or the table does not, I mean, it has a drop down menu, but 290B is not an option as a form on that web page. So, with that being said, our case experience, it's all over the place. There's no right black and white timing. I've had cases where a 290B received decision like in 3 months. Another one was way more complicated, but we got it done. But that response took 3 years. It was an employment-based case. Took 3 years. It was ridiculous. Which, of course, if it takes that long, it can affect your eligibility in the future. It's just hard to predict. Hey, what's going on, Chelvin? For your wife, AP, does it have to be her family or can it be also yours to leave the country? Because your wife does not have that many family members in Mexico, or can you just do the dental work? Dental work, I mean, I think you mean for dental services. I actually had my dental session this today. That's gonna talk about that timing. Unless a dental work, I would say no to dental work unless that can be conveyed as an emergency, um, to some extent. Because of course, I would anticipate USCIS officer would say, "Well, you could get dental work done in America, so why do you have to do that abroad?" Um, Maybe there's like not necessarily maybe not emergency, right? Because of emergency, why can't you just don't do it in America also? But I would say more so, let's say like a specialist, that specialist you can't be found in your local area, for example. Or so yeah, that might be difficult in terms of saying like for some kind of medical care, right? Because most people would say it in reverse, like people are trying to come to America for some kind of medical care. But in terms of your question on if you could mention your own family members because you're the U.S. citizen, we haven't tried that, but you can try. Um, I don't think it specifies on the deck. I mean, the I-131 instructions who set of family members or in-laws. I don't recall that. Okay, at least on the video that I sent you. So check that out. All right, back to TikTok here. All righty. Kimmy, so you just got the new social security card without restriction that mentions that does that mean you're getting a green card? Possibly. I would check your case status online with USCIS webpage probably at least 2 or 3 times this week if that's the case. I mean, um, that's interesting. I never thought about that as an indicator, but that would make sense. I suspect you also got approved or issued the work permit recently because that usually comes out first before the Social Security card. I know the SSA agency, Social Security Administration or agency, has been quite slow last year at least. So if for some reason you've been approved or you got the work permit, um, but you didn't get the Social Security number in a timely manner, like less than 30 days, then you just go ahead and schedule a meeting with SSA. Sometimes some offices allow walk-ins, but just in case, I mean, I don't know your local region, so just check SSA. I'm sure there's a link specific to like locations. Let's see here. Hey, what's up, Jew on TikTok? VAWA, it's approved, and at the same time, already adjustments. I don't know. You mean already? How long for green card is almost 4 months. Well, typically for VAWA, you're still going to get interviewed, and they're not supposed to ask questions about the VAWA, but specific to yours. I mean, what'd you say, 3 months? 4 months? Just base it on 12 months. And did you file adjustment at the same time as VAWA, or is that separate? How y'all doing today? Hope you're doing well. The weather here in Houston, if anyone's from the area or live here, man, it's been wild. It's like up and down. It's like gloomy today, but warm. Looked like it was going to be raining. Alrighty. Nessa Kits on TikTok. Hi, should you amend your husband's taxes if it was filed single? You got married in 2023. Um, you don't have to. I don't. Let me see. Let me see if the IRS website mentions this. IRS. Uh, Let me see if I can file it. Find it. I don't know. I can't recall right now. There's a specific. Okay. Oh, here I found it. Okay, that's quicker than I thought. It says here on the IRS.gov website in the newsroom section, a taxpayer's filing status that typically depends. So typically meaning like doesn't have to be like must or shall. Depends on whether they are single or married on December 31st, which determines their filing status for that entire year. Okay, so it's not necessarily meaning like, oh, you have to be married for 6 months' time. Let's see. Let's see. Specific to married filing jointly, if a taxpayer is married, they can file a joint tax return with their spouse. Now, I know this may be a little bit confusing, but great question here, because there's also an option married file jointly or married file separately. You do want to have typically, from what I know, I'm not a tax lawyer, obviously. I'm not an accountant, so you need to talk to someone specific about this. But our general advice is that if you're married, file at least indicate one of those options: married, file jointly, or married, file separately. From what I understand, sometimes spouses file separately, but still indicate married, file separately because maybe one spouse has a business, and it's just could be easier to file that separately. Okay, so hopefully that gives you an idea. Doesn't mean that you're not going to get your what do you call that, marriage deduction. Okay, standard filing deduction. But yeah, anything further than that, you need to talk to a CPA, accountant, or bookkeeper. Well, maybe not bookkeeper, enrolled agent. Okay. That reminds me, we need to send an email about these tips. Alrighty. Hey Vanessa, you're in Texas with the current bill going on. What rights should you know to protect yourself? So I don't want to make assumptions about your status, but I know for myself, I just had to renew my passport. I'm a U.S. citizen, and for the first time in my life, I selected also to pay for a passport card, right? Because normally I don't think anyone brings a copy of their birth certificate. I don't think anyone necessarily brings their passport in the vehicle. And if you're a household where you have more than one vehicle and you might use both cars, yeah, it's just going to make it difficult for law enforcement. I The law enforcement officials, cops I know, they don't want to ask this kind of question like, "Hey, do you have immigration status? Are you a U.S. citizen? Show me proof." And of course, if they're going to ask that question, they're going to have to ask for proof, which doesn't make sense because who carries proof that you're a U.S. citizen? I mean, I get it for resident holders, you carry proof of that. But even if you had a non-immigrant visa, you would need to carry your passport, your own foreign passport. So it's just wild. It's ridiculous. But yeah, it's back and forth. So we'll definitely update you when it's a little bit more steady because whatever I share now, it could change like in 2 hours because it's been back and forth the past week or so. It's been nuts. But my safe answer: drive the speed limit. Don't speed and don't drink and drive. Call Uber or order Uber. Um, Abby, if you send your packet today, do you have to pay the new fee? No, but I recommend you paying for next day delivery or 2-day delivery, so it gets there before April 1st. All right, Anomaly Network on YouTube. You just filed your AOS package. You were doing consular processing, you did AP, biometrics if reused, and sent medical already approved I-130. Okay, great. Case under active review as of 220 this year. How long to get approved? You're in SD San Diego. SD is so nice. Congrats to you for living there. I wish I could drum up the ability to pay state income taxes. Um, so I don't know what your question. Oh, your question is how long to get approved. There's no black and white timing. I mean, because you mentioned here you were doing consular processing, but you just filed the AOS, so the 485 form. Now this might be bad news bears, but did you did you file the other form 824 I-824? Because that is what brings the case file from the National Visa Center back to stateside for USCIS processing. So it could be a problem if you didn't do that. I mean, I would think it's going to be a problem. So, but hey, if it works out for you, let me know because I think it's ridiculous if people have to pay for this extra form. But I get it if the government requires this because on the I-130, I can't remember exactly what page, but you check mark, proceeding to the next step abroad, consular processing, or here stateside. So, I mean, I'm glad that your spouse was able to get AP approved and travel. I'm assuming she traveled already and back in. But yeah, default, you're supposed to pay for this 824 file and pay for this form 824 to bring the case file from one agency to another in that sense. Um, yeah, this is $465. And when I checked, I think yesterday, a couple days ago, depending on service center, is ranging from like 4 months to 12 months on average. It's I don't know why, but several locations, service centers are handling this, which I think is ridiculous because it's like wide ranging time. That's why I say that. Let's see here. Let's see here. So, question from Candy on Instagram here. Candy asks, you have a question, you want to file for divorce, but your husband is in jail. Is it possible to file for divorce? Oh, absolutely. You can serve his ass in jail. Or her, his or her. Um, yeah, you can still get it done. Let me know what state you're in. If you're in Texas, we can provide you referrals. Send us a DM, okay? Well, sorry to hear about the situation, but you gotta do what you gotta do, okay? And I don't remember if you had to file an immigration case, but our team can advise you about that. Now, to give you an idea, I should have mentioned this earlier. I might have. If you want to get in contact with us, one of the best ways, especially if you're on TikTok or YouTube, I think we need to update the link on YouTube. But on TikTok, go to the profile page. Under my photo, there's a link. Okay, click on the link, answer a few questions, and it's going to redirect you to a payment page. Normally, we don't charge a fee, but this is more like a hold fee. Okay, just like it is in what do you call that? Like a hotel. You reserve a hotel, there's always a hold fee. When you get there, they ask for a credit card. We're doing this now because some people, not many, but some people, it only takes a few bad apples in a sense, um, that they did not show up, and we have limited spots. More so because the other time in the scheduled time block, we have to do the work. So and some people pay a regular consultation fee, but we charge this amount as a hold fee. Okay. So if for some reason you're concerned, at the end of the day, most law firms charge like much higher minimum. Some people charge or three. So I can't say it out loud. I know it's silly because certain platform that does this action banned me for like 5 minutes. So I can't say it out loud. But anyways, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's like less than a cup of coffee these days, which is wild. But yeah, we're absolutely, if you show up, we're happy to refund. Click refund. Someone on my team can do that. Okay. Let's see. And after that, it will redirect you to a calendar to self schedule a meeting. Everything blended on TikTok. Do I see hope for change in processing times? No, I do not, especially not for waiver cases, 601 or 601A. But to alleviate those concerns about processing times, that's why we intentionally have three service levels. Where if you're really concerned about the processing times, which a lot of people are, for our max service level, we file your case in 30 days. For family based, if it's investor, employment based, we file in 45 days. All right. Now, pro plan in the middle tier, so middle pricing, you could say, is 60 days, and light plan is 90 days to file. Now, keep in mind, some people have actually asked our attorneys and myself, well, if they pick pro, does that mean you're going to literally wait to the 60th day to file? No. As soon as we get everything we need, we're going to go ahead and file as soon as possible. But it's more about proper managing client expectations, right? Because we don't want to promise 30, we cannot literally physically promise 30 days for every single client. It's difficult. So you have to pick a service level, okay? Hopefully that gives you an idea. I'm gonna mispronounce this name, but Qseen, Xuceen, Tajir on TikTok. What are the questions to ask on a master hearing? A whole bunch. So I'll record a different top. I'll make sure to ask my team to set that up for a next session. Okay. There's a lot. It's not just top three on that. All righty. Thank you so much for your questions. Let's see. I really don't mean to jump around, but TikTok just scrolls it whichever direction, so it's hard to. Easy, easy Abu TikTok is, will the new form be different, or is it just a fee increase? So forms is not it's not all inclusive in a sense. Like it's not changing everything. April 1st is just for the fees, as far as I know. But you do want to check the the updated edition date. Not every form updates a specific time of the year. It just depends when USCIS wants to do it. There's no set time, so it's not like January 1st, 2024 or something. So you do want to check, because if you're getting the form from a different, like if you pay for like online service, which if you're going to pay for that, you might as well just talk to us, because our team has received complaints even from certain companies I'm not going to say out loud, that you just file online. But some might, I mean, it's software, right? Technology. So you think it's updated, but you do want to check. And the thing is, if you're going to have to check all that, then it's like you might as well definitely hire a legal team. Okay. So hopefully that helps answer your question. All right. Let me scroll down here. Monifa on TikTok, is I-130 mandatory to be submitted? Well, I think you mean to say I-130. Yes. I mean, I'm assuming you're talking about marriage-based case. If it's an employment-based case, then it's I-140. So it depends on your scenario. Try Delta 2 on TikTok. Can you change your visa after arrival in the US? Like you married an American guy, your visit visa tourist. Okay. So no, you don't actually, um, even if your future spouse or fiance is a resident holder, there's no there's no requirement to file a change of status application to 539, which can be done online. I know it's weird because for any other thing, like if you're going for visitor, tourist visa to student visa or to another non-immigrant visa like O1 or H1B, you are required to file it depending on the specific application, doesn't require it. So I mean that's an example where you definitely need a lawyer 101 to guide you. Okay, great question. I know it's weird. They don't require it for marriage-based cases. But actually, as related to that, okay, whoever asked this question, before you potentially overstay your visa, you really, and it's based on a marriage-based case, you really need to talk to your fiance and get their shit together. Help them get their shit together, because or yours, that that this is the one, right? I mean, hopefully, I wish you all the best in finding the right match, but yeah, you don't want to, because if you were potentially going to go back to your country, but you decided, or he or she mentioned, "Oh, I'm going to propose to you." Yeah, I know some friends of mine even like, yeah, yeah, like we touch base like once a year or something. I'm like, "Hey, weren't you going to get? Are you married? Like, weren't you going to get married?" And and these are some of my fraternity brothers too, and they're like, "Oh yeah, but that didn't work out." So want to keep that in mind, right? And again, this is not to force anyone to get married to you because of the resident filing, right? Resident status filing. But maybe you've been dating for several months or a year plus when you were abroad, but you finally came in and they're like, "Oh," and they didn't give you any indication they were not going to get married with you. You really want to get that sorted out before you potentially overstay. Ahinfo on YouTube. I think I recognize your name. Welcome back. Is it normal to get SSN before EAD because you're still waiting, as the status says, taking longer than expected? It's possible, but that's rare. I would say usually it's the EAD 765 gets approved. You might see it online approved. You might even get the card before it shows updated online. Decision mailed. I know it's wild, but I haven't heard that people get the social security number before the EAD. But think about this. In terms of the workflow for the government, at least for as far as I know, the EAD has to be approved first before they click the easy button to trigger the workflow for Social Security Administration or agency to mail you the Social Security number. Okay, so that's as far as I know. I could be wrong, but for pretty much every client, I've never been told that someone's got the Social Security number before the EAD. But that's interesting. I'm assuming that's what happened in your situation. Okay, Raya on YouTube. Hey, John, it's been 12 months since you filed, but your approval has not come. Do I have an idea how much time it will take to approval F2A category? Oh, it's not gonna, my friend, it's not gonna take 12 months, not F2A. Expected to take at least 2 years, 24 months. And that, from what I understand, is because I mean, if I were the government, I think I understand it correctly that they have no rush. USCIS has no rush to approve your I-130 if it's a family-based preference category. So even for us, like if you ask us to file a mandamus lawsuit for this specific situation, and it's 12 months for F2A petition, we wouldn't file it. We wouldn't want to waste your government fee, okay, or even attorney fee for that. Because generally, let me see if I can even pull it up for you. Got all these websites up here. Let me go to processing time schedule because of visa bulletin. All right, so I'm sure I see a lot of comments here about the visa bulletin or F2A. Um, Permanent resident. I'm just going to assume you're talking about your spouse, okay, or child. So that's F2A, and I don't know what your service center is, but let me see. Let me just pick on Texas Service Center. Okay, but if you're Raya on YouTube, you can mention here. Ooh, snap. 35 months in Texas Service Center. Phew, for the just petition. Let me pick a different service center so I don't completely freak you out. Let me pick Nebraska Service Center. But if you're still on the channel, please let me know. What is this? Nebraska Service Center is processing the I-130 for F2A petitions 24.5 months. And again, this is all because of visa bulletin, okay, from what I understand. Your service center is California? Okay, good thing you mentioned on time. I was going to move on. Okay. California Server Center right now, as of ooh, you're not gonna like this. Nothing you can do about it. F 42 months. Okay, but let's say it does take 3 to 4 years for you, but the visa bulletin, your prior date shows up like as if it's reached, or the current prior date or date shows past, and then like future thinking past your prior date, then you definitely want to file an inquiry. And if that doesn't work, file a lawsuit. Okay, so you got to track this at least I recommend every month, not to freak you out, but depends your timing, okay, of the case in general. Oh, I meant to add this to the stage. Okay, Let me see if I can move it over, edit the layout. Oh, that's cool. I can move that. Let me save that. Um, okay. Let me move a comment. So Raya or Ria, you can see it here. 42 months for California Summer Center. Okay. Okay, I'm back there. All right, let me go back and forth on the different platforms. Thanks for your patience. Maggie. All right, Maggie, your dad and U.S. citizen, who is a U.S. citizen, filed for your brother and sister. Okay. I know you had a follow comment. You filed. Okay. Well, sounds like as a priority, it's a preference category. I think your follow-up comment was about the that was taking too long. Okay. Um, so here's the deal. So that's the thing. Family preference petitions based on family preference relationships tend to take longer. So usually at least 2 years, just like I was mentioning for another person, Raya. So so you want to check that on the bulletin. I think what I'll do. What do y'all think about this? I'm trying to find a way. Okay, this is what I'll do. I'll ask the marketing team to add these links on our website at greencardguys.com so that I can just let you know, hey, it's on this certain page and you know where to go. So you don't have to like fuss around about Google searching things. Okay. So that would be probably easier for you. So I'll see if they have time to do that this week. By the way, speaking of providing other ways for information, resources, I know some of y'all ask like, how do I get a sponsor? How do I make sure I'm eligible? So those are more like webinar format than like these quick answers. So if you're interested on a certain topic that you may think that's not like something for a short, quick answer, um, send us a DM, okay, or send us a request on that, and also mention webinar as a quick keyword if you don't mind, especially if you're on one of these social media platforms. Okay, Myra, I see you commented on both platforms here, TikTok and YouTube. So that's smart to get on YouTube because there's not as many comments on here. All right. So if you definitely want to get my attention, I guess the way to go is Myra knows. Hop on a YouTube there. Or how hard is it to do a 601A waiver without a lawyer? I mean, it can be done, of course. Yeah, I'm not trying to say you have to have one, but if you want the peace of mind and not worry about like having to Google search or just be constantly worried, especially for average 3 to 4 years time period, that's like average case processing time. With our team, you get that peace of mind. You'll get a guide, several pages of a guide, instructions on how to get this done. Not instructions in the sense like, oh, like we leave you be and like you do it on your own. No, not like that. Okay, but the instructions specifically about what examples to review the examples on the waiver hardship letter. Okay, and we have the proven checklist. Knock on wood, we've only been denied one time, and that's because a spouse was in jail. They didn't want to cooperate anymore. And actually could have been processed if they wanted to keep their relationship, but that didn't work out. Him or her being in jail was due to the relationship. So nothing to do about us. Oh my stomach is grumbling. Okay, so let's see. Let me switch over to here. Lourdes, we need to talk because you're saying you got military parole in place. Congratulations on that. Can you renew it before it expires? If you do, you have to pay another filing fee. But why would you need to renew it? Are you not eligible for adjustment or something? And unfortunately, the field officers are slow these days, really slow to process it. Okay, because that's where as you know, military parole in place has to be filed directly with the field office. It's weird. I don't know why they do that. It should just be at a more central location for the USCIS to streamline it. But yeah, I am aware that some people don't qualify for military parole place, but not for adjustment. So at least military parole place can at least give you the advanced parole and then eventually apply for work permit. Anomaly network 864 that was sent. Your previous lawyer had been in contact to keep your I-130 active. Your lawyer did not file the 765 or the 131 with the AOS package. Should you have filed those? You currently hold DACA. Yeah, so you have DACA. You got the work permit. So the 765 doesn't matter in that sense. The I-131, I mean, all these we file it together. Why not? I know it could be a little confusing for 765, but for office, it's just standard to file all of those forms, but not trying to say your lawyer did anything wrong. I know some people don't file it, and coming up with the new fee increase, some people might not want to file at least a 131. If you like already know you don't intend to travel abroad, but you never know. Like if you have a parent who gets ill, sick, pass away, unfortunately, then that would be just backtracking time to file 131 when that happens, when that event happens. So that's why we file it all together at once. That's just part of our service by default. Let's see here. Did I even answer your question? Let's see. I guess I did. I don't know what your question is about the 864 though, that you mentioned in the beginning. You're welcome. Happy to answer. Okay. To TikTok here. Again, thank you so much for your questions. I'm just going to be upfront with you all. I'm not going to be able to answer everyone's question. So if that happens, please send us a DM, and I'm happy to send you a video response, or my team will respond to you to the best of their ability. User 9321, your husband's immigration application sitting in refused status at the embassy. What can you do? Well, depends on timing. How long has it been sitting refused? And do they ask you to fill out a form, or for him to fill out a form DS 5535? Do they ask for a document? And it could be frustrating. I mean, I already know it's frustrating for everyone involved with a delayed situation, especially abroad, because it's just much more difficult to control it in that sense. But you want to make sure he wants to make sure he provided everything he needed to. I mean, if he received something like that. But I mean, if it's been at least 6 months in this visa refusal and you got or administrative processing, basically, aka the black hole or swamp that we call it internally, then you want to contact our office. If you want right now, you could download the free guide about the mandamus lawsuit on our website, greencardguys.com. Or you're on TikTok, so you click on the link under my profile picture. I think there's a link just for that. Can a 20-year-old file for SIJ, special immigrant juvenile visa? So there's a two-part process to break it down as high level as possible, but still give you some details here. The first step is to file a case in family court, okay, for SIJ purposes. This is based on if a child has been abused, neglected, or abandoned by just one parent. It doesn't have to be both parents. Typically, that has to be done before 18 years old. So you said 20 years old. Some states allow it before turning 21, even though in general American society, you turn 18, you're adult, you're a majority. So, but some states, and I can't even recall which state, it's definitely not Texas. So, yeah, I need to get the list on that. So you might have to move. Okay. But before you do that, talk to lawyer 101. But the two part, what I meant to mention, the second part is that the SIJ petition, I-360, needs to be filed before a person turns 21 for SIJ purposes. Andrea, you came with a J1 and you have a 2-year rule. You work as a teacher. Yeah. Most teachers get the J1 and the 2-year restriction. Then you meet your boyfriend who is from USA. What will be your best option? Okay, so depending on your consular embassy, we can request an exception of what we call no objection waiver. Okay, that's the quote unquote fastest one option. If that doesn't work, if for some reason your country's um, consular embassy says, or not consular embassy, but you just like your country's consulate says no, then the second option we recommend is based on a hardship waiver. Okay. So, and the third option would be based on persecution from your country, but that's pretty rare. Not everyone has that. Okay. So happy to chat. If you're on YouTube or Facebook, I know on YouTube we need to update the link on the about page or somewhere there for y'all. But I think in the description box, it may have some links below. Okay. Thank you so much for your questions. I got one more question I can answer right now. Channy, your husband has an interview at the embassy in the Bahamas for his I-130, but still sitting in refused status. What can you do? When was that? Okay. Okay, see two other comments, copy and paste. So when was that? Okay, Channy. So because I don't have all the information there, it sounds similar to someone I just answered. How long was when was the interview? Again, if it's been at least 6 months, then definitely contact us. Don't wait, folks, because some of y'all in general might think, "Oh yeah, I mean, my friend got approved in six months and 1 week." That's not necessarily going to be the case for you, regardless of whichever case that you filed. Okay, oh, a year ago for you, that's a long time. Bahamas, I don't usually hear problems about the Bahamas. Okay, so Channy, if your husband completed a DS 5535, if it was requested, or did a medical exam, provided medical exam results. Some consular embassies require the medical results go directly from the clinic or doctor's office to the embassy or consulate, and you don't have to handle it. So, yeah, good point, Raya. Channy didn't mention the, but either way, I mean, he had the interview. Some people had the interview before the prior date shows up on the visa bulletin. Also, Channy, it also may depend on, or it will depend on your status. Are you a resident holder or U.S. citizen? So that's why, Raya, thank you for asking that question. It matters a lot. Okay. All right. On TikTok, I'm gonna answer one more question. Okay. Oh, you're a U.S. citizen? Yeah, then we got a problem. Okay. Houston, we got a problem. Let's chat. Okay. Go to my website. And there's a link. You're on YouTube, so there's a link on my YouTube page. I don't know how to describe it. I guess the about page or somewhere, or the top of the thing. Okay. Okay, folks. So future reference, try not to copy and paste your questions or experience, especially on TikTok, because it takes me a hell of a long time to scroll up and down. And it's like I got a stiff arm here. Okay, the king speaks on TikTok. You have filed I-130 since January last year, 2023. That'd be it's still under review. What should you do? Depends on your relationship type. Is it not meaning like Facebook status style, but like is it family preference? Are you a resident, or are you even the sponsor, or just as a sponsor a resident? If so, then it generally takes to I have it up. What's your service center? So I mean, this is a good example when I was sharing for someone else. If your case petition is at the California Service Center right now, you're not gonna like this. The I-130 is taking 42 months, 80% of cases. It's ridiculous. And just because it shows online here, USCIS.gov page, ooh, a certain time period, that does not mean you have to wait that certain time period to file a lawsuit. Okay. If you're ever wondering, don't be shy. Send us a DM, schedule a meeting. We're happy to chat about it, or just call us. I have charts basically for my team to share. Okay, and it can change from time to time. National Benefit Center, if that's where your case is at, petition. I don't know why, but it's taking 61.5 months over there. Whew, totally ridiculous. Okay. And platonic summer center shows 31 months, so slightly better. Still ridiculous. Okay, folks, thank you so much for your time and joining on here on the show. Welcome to come out tomorrow. I think I should be live. I went live last night at like 11:30 p.m. I know it's crazy Central Time. When I'm able to drum up some energy, I'll go live, especially because the filing fees are going up very soon, April 1st, 2024. All right. So don't be shy. Welcome to come back. The best way to know when I go live, especially at night, I have no idea when I'm going to do that. You got to follow. Okay. Got to follow. And it's exclusive. I don't go live on Facebook or YouTube at night. Okay. Y'all have a good one. Take care. Peace.